Alrighty guys, we're on lesson 8.08, which is about cones. So your objective today is students will be able to apply formulas to find the volume of cones. Now, as we did, let's see if you remember again, which two-dimensional shape makes a cone if I was to rotate it? Oh my goodness, yes, it's a triangle. I'm so happy you remember these. With that said, in your notebook, let's go ahead and copy the formula. When you think of cone, think of ice cream cone. 1/3 pi r square h. The r is your radius and the h is your height. We're going to do 3 examples today. The first 2 are straightforward. The second one is a little bit more of application. Now, what I am going to point out is that most of you know that h is height. Your height is up and down and that makes that 90 degree. This here, the squiggly part, is your slanted height. So that's different. First question says find the volume of this shape and round it to the nearest tenth. So again, go back to your notes, copy the formula, 1/3 pi r square h, and then we're going to substitute. Let me get my pen, here we go. Volume is equal to 1/3 pi r square h. And remember, you don't have to memorize these formulas. They're on the reference sheets. They will be given to you for any assessment. So let's see what we know. This represents the 9 is my height. This is my diameter. So that means my radius is going to be 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Now I have all my information. Let me go ahead and substitute. 1/3 times pi times 4 square times 9. Now because I wanted to round it to the nearest tenth, when I put this in my calculator, I'm going to enter everything. So I'm going to do 1/3 times pi times 4 square times 9, and I'm going to write 2 decimal and then we'll round it together as just like a review. So it's 150.79, and if I want 1 decimal, this will be 150.8. I'm looking at this guy. The number that I circle is higher, so the one where the arrow points goes up by 1. And again, don't forget your units, it's feet cube. So the volume of this shape is 150.8 feet cube. On to our second example. Again, here it says find a volume, but we're leaving it in terms of pi, meaning do not enter pi in my calculator. So volume equals 1/3 pi r square h. This is my height and this is my radius, so I don't have to do any division, any dividing by 2. 1/3 times pi, 2 square times 8. Now again, in your calculator, we will enter everything except the pi, because they said they want us to leave it in terms of pi. So we'll do 1/3 times 2 square and then multiply that by 8, and it's going to be 10.67 pi, and it's in inches cube. Right? So when you enter all of these, the 3 numbers that I underline, they're the one that leads to this 10.67. I just put 2 decimal here because it ended up being a decimal, but it says in terms of pi, meaning I want to make sure there's a pi involved. If you had written 10.7 pi inches cubed, that would have been okay as well. In terms of pi, just means that there needs to be a pi in here. Most of the time, if it's asked for you, the number before it's normally a whole number. But like you guys know, I make this up, as we go along. Now, this example, I want to make sure you have this. Of all the example, I need you to make sure you have this one copied in your notebook. So as shown in the diagram below, the radius of the cone is 2.5. The slanted height, keyword, is 6.5. What is the volume? So here, we know that the volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. If I'm going ahead and substitute, I get 1/3 times pi. The radius is 2.5, but I don't know what the height is. I need to find the height. So now if you look at this here, we just said that the height is the one that goes straight up and down and it's perpendicular to the base. So if I'm looking at the picture, this is 6.5, my slanted height. This is the radius from the bottom, and I need to find out what is this guy, because that's the height. This x, this is my height. How do I find a missing side? And it's a right triangle. Excellent, Pythagoras theorem. So this is my C, my A, and B. Remember, A and B doesn't matter. So it becomes 2.5 squared plus x squared equals to 6.5 squared. And then 2.5 squared is 6.25 plus x squared equals 6.5 squared is 42.25. Now, to get x by itself, we minus 6.25 on both sides. This is cancel. You're left with x squared equals 36. Take the square root to get rid of the square. Your x is square root of 36 is 6. So the height here is 6. Now that I get the height, I come back down to where I started to write the formula out, and then I substitute it here. Let's go ahead and type everything in your calculator. So we're going to do 1/3 times pi times 2.5 squared times 6. And how many cubic centimeters are in the volume? So let's do whole number. So this actually works out to be 39.26, which is approximately, if you round this to the nearest whole number, it's 39 centimeters cubed. Don't forget your units because we're working in volume. Alrighty, so the key thing for this guy is whenever we're working with cone, be careful. Are you given the height or the slanted height? Are you given the radius or the diameter? If you're given the diameter, how do we get the radius from that? Now that you finish copying that, please make sure you go complete the worksheet. Some of the questions are multiple choice, but you know the deal is you got to show all your work for full credit, and don't forget to upload it on Google Classroom. Have a good day.